welcome to the Technicamp's WiST meeting for this month, our bi-monthly meetings for women in STEM and in business, to give you an opportunity to network and hopefully gain some skills from our speakers each month. So today we have Sam Wheeler with us from Big Lemon. And we met through the Huarteg Women in STEM Awards last year. So that was very exciting. Sam beat me to it and won the award for Women in STEM. So no hard feelings, but it's fantastic that we've got her here today. So she's going to talk to us about the strengths of networking, which has obviously influenced her career and her career changes over the years. I'm not going to say too much because obviously she's got all the details and information, but she's a lovely person, lovely. Actually, I met her in person, which doesn't often happen at the moment, rather than just online. So I'm going to pass over to Sam.
Fab. All right, I'll kick in. So yeah, I'm Sam. I'm 38 years old and I live on a mountain in the middle of nowhere. I'm not in my own kitchen today. I'm working from somebody else's house today, as you do when you're remote working. I do have many hats that I wear, and yeah, I'm a very proud working mum, and two of my loves are hiking and peanut butter. It's going to be a mega tough job to kind of cover everything that has been sort of suggested today, but I'm going to do my best and hopefully just spark a little bit of inspiration as and where I can. And I'm super happy to kind of continue conversations after this if there are things that just you want to delve into a little bit more, but hopefully this is a little flurry of inspiration for somebody out there. All right, so I just wanted to kind of set the scene a little bit in my world, I guess, in digital and tech, which is what I've been working in for a really long time, all my career pretty much, with regards to why networking, why sort of pivoting and having these sort of skills and abilities is really important. Generally in tech, the jobs spectrum is really broad. Every single element of what we are doing now within this sector has a human involved. It's not just about tech and digital skills, it's much more beyond that, and it's growing. It's growing really, really rapidly, particularly in Wales, for those of you who are based in Wales, and we've seen that sort of flurry of action over the last few years. There's also a massive trend within remote working. I'm now fully remote, and that's something I'm trying to champion, and we all need to kind of adapt to that as well. But that's a hard thing to do, and particularly when you're trying to network from afar. How do you even reach those types of people? How do you champion that movement and continue to meet new people from a distance? It's not an easy thing to do, but it needs to be embraced, and we need to figure that out. And like I said before, digital skills aside, creativity and innovation, I think, leads the way. And it takes people to bring these ideas to life. It takes people to bring all of this together and invent and dream up these ideas and this future of work that we're in. They're transferable skills. It may sometimes feel like you're in an isolation with what you are learning and your skills that you have, but they really are transferable. We need to connect the human and the technology together and advance with this as we move into this new entity, a future of work. And jobs are not for life. There's very much this whole premonition previously of just sort of everybody stays in the same job for 15, 20 years minimum. And that's not where we are anymore. So we need to constantly be pivoting and adapting to this ever-changing kind of workplace that we're moving into. Refreshing our skills, I think, is really, really important. But ultimately, I think things that we all need as people are really, really important, not just the skills that we can learn. There are some things about us as people that are really, really important. Hold on, my dishwasher's going off. There we go. Well, regardless of what skills and abilities we have or that we're learning, we all kind of should be paying attention to as well. And I'm really starting to focus in on yourselves. So if anybody didn't know, you can see the stat on the screen, 55% of our communication is actually non-verbal. So regardless of your skills, you're probably going to have somebody judge you very, very quickly. Again, another stat is that we make this judgment within a matter of seconds about each other. It doesn't take very long for people to look at you and understand if they're probably going to trust you or not. So things to be mindful of when we are out there talking with new people, when we are meeting new people for the first time. And that can be even harder when it comes to meeting people virtually, but ever more reason to pay attention to that. And thinking about those attributes and qualities that are being pushed out just through your body language, through your facial expression, through your tone of voice. Communication around what you're telling people is really important. And just to kind of read this out for those of you who are here, the two words information and communication are often used interchangeably, but they are different. Information is giving and communication is getting through. So when you're out there channeling your message, talking to people about who you are and what you're about, you want to communicate. You don't just want to fly information at people and they're just like, whoa, this is too much. But how do you do that effectively? And for me, I think there are some key qualities about a person when you're out there talking with people that really help with that. Being passionate, engaging, enthusiasm, committed, and confident, definitely not arrogant, authentic and warmth. I think that the phrase that most people will probably resonate with, that you hear a lot, is about being authentic. And it's very true. I think it's a real thing to be able to be understanding of who you really are and believe in who you really are and push that out, because it will come across. If you don't believe in who you are or believe in what you're doing, then nobody's going to believe you. You have to believe it yourself. And I honestly believe I've always been taught. My dad actually did hypnotherapy when I was a kid. That's something that he did. I grew up around him teaching me about body language and the fact that your body and your mind are totally intertwined. And he always used to channel the message positive mental attitude at me, because if you come across with that, even if your core is not feeling it, you will go off those vibes and people will want to come over and talk to you, will want to resonate with you and find out more about who you are. Communicating that message through your body language and your personality is really, really important. And honestly, if you are at these types of events, virtual or not, or whether you're even just trying to sell yourself within your space that you're working into your peers, what is the worst that can happen? You move on, you're going to learn from it, and you're going to keep going. Dory's one of just keep swimming always pops into mind. Just keep swimming, just keep swimming. You've got to be brave and stick up for yourself and know that you are worthy. I think the imposter syndrome, and I'm going to pick up on that a little bit later, will always feed into all of us, no matter who you are or where you are. And I actually think, particularly being a woman and female within working space, it makes it even harder. But you have to realize that there are more beyond your little bubble. There are opportunities beyond your little bubble. And don't be afraid to take the long road of getting there. A lot of people want to be leaders on the top of their game. You don't have to be a leader to be good at what you do. Those middle people, if that's the terminology to maybe even call it, those core people that keep the functionality of the world running are absolutely pivotal. So that deep learning has absolute merit as well. You don't need to be in a rush to get to somewhere. Learn along the way and show that to people. Take people on you on that learning journey, and you will be able to be a better person to be networking and communicate with when you're out there trying to sell your story and grow. I think another thing that has resonated with me recently, I read a publication called Dense Discovery. It's one of those ones I'll definitely share with you guys afterwards. And the guy who writes it, Kai, he has pivoted his career quite extensively over the years. He's an editor of a publication, but he didn't start out doing that. He just did content writing for companies. He works in Australia. And then, he decided he wanted to create his own content. He published his own publication called Offscreen, which is a fantastic publication. Again, I'll share that with you after. But he couldn't continue to fund it. He was trying to be really authentic in how he was sustaining that. He wanted to not have adverts and sort of crazy things that you see in magazines these days. So it went flop, and he decided to put together something called Dense Discovery, which is an online email to your inbox publication every couple of weeks. And it's fantastic. And recently he's done a reflection, which is equally as important, I think, in our journeys. And he said, well, what if instead of finding readers for his writing, he did writing for the readers? So you don't have to always go out there and find new people that you want to be on board your journey. The people that are around you already probably could add lots and lots of value. Maybe just target them. You don't have to constantly be reaching new people. Think about the value that they could have in your journey, the immediate people within your networks, within your zones, and serve those best rather than continuously trying to evolve it beyond something that's even controllable. And I just wanted to go specifically into sort of my journey and why it's relatable, and I'll kind of bring it into that bigger picture. I've had around 25 different jobs, and I've worked with about 30 different companies UK-wide, and that's not been an easy thing to achieve at all. And on reflection, when I kind of calculated that, it does sound big, but it's not really. How old am I? Yeah, 38. So yeah, I don't know, it sounds a lot, but actually in this day and age, it probably isn't. We all, I mean, what quantifies even as a job, right? So you'll see in a minute what I mean by that. I guess my journey started out in the performing arts, and I've said this here, it's not performing arts that I did, it's performance art, and it was very, very different for me in terms of that starting ground of probably where a lot of what I do now still resonates. It was always about not conforming, it was always about challenging people, engaging different audiences, being diverse, challenging societal issues and political sort of unrest and all of that around it was something that was embedded me on such an early sort of journey in my world, and I feel like I've still got that. It might not directly relate, but I definitely feel like I've got some of that still in me all the time in what I do. That passion and that drive and wanting to be different and challenge people is something that has stayed with me throughout my career. When I did graduate, I ran away to London because I didn't see any opportunity where I was living at the time. And I thought London was it. That was my purpose. That was the place where I was going to thrive and have this amazing career. And don't get me wrong, I absolutely did. I met so many wonderful people, including will.i.am, which is my little picture there. Some of my students, when I ran a school, we met will.i.am and we did a project with him. But for me, I think what really happened was that it was the start of figuring out life within startups. So engaging with raw companies and enterprises and being a part of that constant iteration process. These startups were discovering who they were in their place and constantly learning, making mistakes, taking risks, and then sometimes exploding and not being able to go anywhere. And I loved that. And that's a classic reinvention of who you are constantly. It's not just a business, but of who you are. And I learned a lot from that in terms of myself and how I wanted to place myself, that I don't know. Like, it was just one of those catalysts of, well, it's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to take these risks and constantly learn. But it was hard work to be able to keep that iteration going. Where do you find the next thing to go to? And I got a lot of opportunities to co-found a company. I was asked to kind of take on the ownership of a company, but it never felt right. So I always stayed employed in some shape or form. And I think what was really getting to me at the core was that not a lot of my work felt fully work-life balance. It didn't feel fully, to my heart and relatable to me. So I discovered Escape the City, which some of you may or may not know. Again, I'll share all of this with you after. And I really discovered that there was much more to a job than just the job, the day-to-day, right? Like, it's about really thinking about the purpose behind it. And when I went to an event way back in 2012, they ignited that in me, and I wanted to be more purpose-driven in the jobs that I was trying to seek out and be a part of. So I started thinking about where I could go and how I could engage with people, and I networked my butt off in terms of just going to random events, talking to people, and it was hard work because I was still doing a day job, but in the evenings I would go and I would just put myself out there to just have random conversations. But it wasn't about skills, it was just about me as a person. So bringing it back round to what I was sharing before, those personality traits, trying to sound me as a human rather than necessarily my skills. But I definitely had passions that were starting to come about. So this tech for good, tech with purpose thread that I think has been consistent in my life really started to shine through. And I was just reading and trying to discover what was going on in the landscape of where I was at beyond my little bubble, and just trying to be inspired by lots of different things that were going on. And this whole sort of shaping a world and being more influential just kept coming up as a theme. And education was one of those themes as well. And like I said before, I did set up my own school and run that in digital. We got closed down in the end, actually. We did a massive campaign, and it got closed down. But again, I learned so much in terms of, I wasn't digitally trained, but I've met so many amazing people when I set up that school, and industry people, and I wanted to keep those conversations going. So I made the effort to put myself out there and keep those conversations going and be relevant in that sector. And the people side of things really started to shine through. I love working with people. I love communicating with people. I am quite an extrovert. And again, that was a trait that you've got to recognize in yourself. You've got to recognize the traits that work for you. And yeah, definitely being around people was one of my things. And I led a fantastic team at a company called Freeformers, where it was all about digital innovation. It was transforming people, transforming companies. And I wanted to bridge that gap for others, not just corporates, but for young people as well. And I'd say I learnt a lot there, and that was really exciting. But I'd always had this sort of ambition and drive to run away from London, and it's quite hard to run away from that. And I didn't know what the risk was involved in that. My world and my networks were in London. I didn't have anything beyond London at that time. It was in this big bubble, and I didn't know what that could be. But I did it. I ran away, and I've started using the hashtag "The Hills Are Alive" from Sound of Music, and it was a huge risk when I left, or when I was considering leaving. My boss at the time, who was female, was a woman, and she said to me, "If you leave London, Sam, you're just going to ruin your career, and you're just going to end up being a housewife." And I think that was a driver for me to say, well, no, why should that be the case? I did my research, so it was between Cardiff to move to, and I also looked at moving to Devon. But the reason that obviously I picked Cardiff, I didn't move to Cardiff to Brecon, but Cardiff in its essence as a city, was because I felt like there was much more opportunity to strike up a career. So before I moved, I researched online all the different networks that were already established in Wales, and I started attending events before I moved. A lot of these actually I found on Facebook rather than on LinkedIn. I don't know about anybody else, but LinkedIn isn't my most favourite tool. Facebook I found was a little bit more useful at that time, until I could understand who the influencers were. It was quickly came about who the individual influencers were. So I found the networks and the companies who were in action, and I just started to write to them and stalk them a little bit on social media, and then write to them to say, can I have a coffee with you and just pick your brains? I'm new to the area. And they did. A flurry of people did. And it ended up being me telling them my story. And again, not about skills and learning necessarily, just who I was and what my passions were and what I wanted to become and be a part of. And that sold it more than telling them what my skills were, because your skills can be learned and adapted. And that for me was a pivotal moment, because people started believing in me as a person, probably more than I believed in myself. And I went freelance when I did move. I was obviously employed through the whole time of being in London, and being freelance was a huge risk. I didn't even really know who I was, what my skills were, what I could offer. And I took a massive pay cut as well. I was earning quite a decent wage in London, and moving to Wales was a huge risk. But it felt like it was something I just needed to do, because I knew that I was good with people. I knew that I was quite brave, even if I didn't really know what I was doing. And I could just try and sell me as a person and hope that somebody might just take a plunge and give me an opportunity. And I kept my sector really large. I didn't just focus on digital and tech. It was creative, and it was operational, and it was, art, and it was schools, and it was big businesses, it was universities, and I would just try and talk to all of these different people in the hope that somebody would bite. And they did. I did end up driving a lot though, so I kept all my networks up within London as well, and I kept driving back and forth the first couple of years, racked up those miles, but it felt like the right decision to make. And yeah, I'm really glad I did, because it was sort of a pivotal sort of embedding time when I did move here, and I wanted to be able to keep those connections up, and I still have to this day, not all of them obviously. I think that's something to be brave as well, is that you can't keep all of your networks alive forever. Some of them are going to dip and disappear, and being okay with that, I think, is really important. Yeah, so a flurry of sort of the companies that I've worked with, and an example of some of the work that I've done since I've been in Wales just alone. I met a lady who lived around the corner from me in Brecon at a market that I was at. I actually put myself out there in terms of just helping people locally when I came to Wales as well. Because yeah, if you've got to engage in your local community as well as thinking outside the box, haven't you, in terms of your sector. And I met a lady who worked in digital and tech, but she owned a big mansion around the corner from where I lived, and she was coming and buying a veg from a local market. And we just striked up a random conversation about, who are you? What do you do? And then she just took me under her wing and gave me a little bit of work within the Lumen Prize. And I did an exhibit and a project at Caerphilly Castle, and that was within my first few months of moving to Wales. And it was just lovely because that came about so randomly, just meeting her at a market. And then, yeah, I guess somebody like Pika, who were an educational technology company, I contacted them because I loved the work that they did, and there was nothing else other than just telling them that their work was great. And they asked me who I was. We went for a burger, and they were like, do you want to come on board and do a little bit of mentoring? And I didn't get paid initially, but I absolutely loved what they did. And then they got some funding, and they asked me to come on board properly as a part-time person, just to do some operational stuff. So it's kind of setting those seeds, isn't it, without expectation, and just seeing where they might lead to. And not purposely going out there to get something out of it, just complimenting people, just telling them that they're doing a good job, engaging with people on a core level, I think is, you know, something that has really helped me. Not just attending events and going to formal networking events. I would say that's secondary to actually having a proper conversation with somebody, a cuppa or whatever that may be. And yeah, and kind of word spreads, I guess. And alongside all of this, I think having passion projects is something that's kept my career alive. You know, I speak at events, I've done stuff, like I said, more locally, community-based. And again, I'm still learning from that and putting that into my day-to-day career too. I've set up a mountain meets network locally to me because I wanted to engage with businesses that were more local and find out, well, what were their issues and what were their problems? How could I maybe help them? And I got a few work local gigs from that. And just being a part of general networks and just trying to add value to others, again, without necessarily looking for something in return. And then I had a bubba, and that was all a big surprise. And again, I had to try and pivot because I knew that I wasn't able to continue the driving. I wasn't able to be on the road. And I'd always tried to be as flexible as I could in working, particularly when I was freelance. But I knew at this point it needed to be a lot more emphasized. And that's quite a scary place to be. Again, I think this is probably maybe, I don't know, the 6th time I probably felt like I'd had to reinvent myself. But this was probably the most catalyst of those reinventions. It was a real knock for me. I love work. I never ever even questioned the idea of not working, but I do love being a mum, and I wanted to show her and set that example for her. So I suddenly started thinking about, well, what people out there are going through the same as me, and I did a little bit of research. Pregnant and Screwed came up, Flexible came up, and I started joining their networks and having conversations with them. Again, picking out individual people to have conversations with and learning from. And that sparked something in me in terms of equality and diversity. And I really wanted, again, to focus on that people aspect. What do people need? How can I help people? Who do I need to talk to in order to be in that space? So I took Willow on the road with me wherever I went. She came with me to when I was hosting events, and yeah, she would be on calls with me in the background. And I stayed really true to what I wanted. I knew I wanted flexibility. I didn't want to work part-time, but I knew I could do it. I think my first job when I had Willow was working for a company on an operational level. They were based in Brighton. And the guy asked me to be the CEO of the company. And I was like, I can't be a CEO, but I can definitely help you operationally. And we did. And we worked it out. And I worked with him a couple of days a week, as well as doing other bits and bobs along the side. But I stayed true to what I wanted to do. And I think that was really important. There was merit in that. Yeah, so I never stopped looking and applying for work, even though I wasn't able to fully commit 100%. And yeah, and she definitely made me rethink everything about what I wanted to achieve. And there was massive imposter syndrome, and there still is all the time. I don't feel I'm worthy of being in this space, worthy of some of the work that I'm doing. And I think everybody has those moments and feels that. And that's why I always try and embrace the whole, I wear many hats. I don't just wear one hat, and that's okay. You can adapt your skills to suit what people need. Yeah, one of the things that I did when I first moved to Wales was that I did coaching. I'd never done coaching before. Somebody just said, oh, Sam, you look like you do really good presentations and you're really good at talking. Can you help people do it? And I was like, okay. And I put a little presentation together, went in to do some coaching on some accelerator programs, and it worked really well. And then I got asked to go and do some coaching one-to-one. Again, never something I'd ever contemplated doing, but it's a pivot in the skill, isn't it? Somebody had spotted me doing presentation hosting. I took those skills, put it into a presentation to then deliver that as an actual product, my own product. And that's, I don't know, that's really, really empowering. And again, it feels that imposter syndrome moment, but it was an adaptable, pivotal moment for me in my career. And then I found the guys at Big Lemon really by accident. Somebody suggested I go and do a little bit, again, not what my forte was, social media and marketing. Just because I love social media, I love being on Twitter, and somebody said, do you want to do Twitter for somebody else? I was like, cool, I will not confess to being an expert, but I'll give it a go. Went in, fell in love with the guys, absolutely loved what they were doing at the core, and they asked me to join the company formally as a director and a founder. I'd never wanted to before, absolutely never wanted to, because I didn't want to ever be tied to one company. It was really important that I collect this eclectic field of opportunities. And that's what I did. I brought in my experience, my knowledge, the people that were in my network into the company, and that worked for me at that time. And sometimes those pivotal moments, you know, they will occur, and you need to make that decision if it's the best personal decision for you. And what we do at Big Lemon really aligned with everything that I wanted to achieve personally. And what I said to the guys is, I don't want to stop being who I am. My personal progression within this company, if I take this leap to being a founder and a director of the company. And that's exactly what I still do. I still am Sam Wheeler as an individual. I'm still developing my skills, continuing my networks alongside being a director and a co-founder at Big Lemon. And one thing that I've channeled into the company, and again, I channel anybody to be a part of this movement, is a 4-day working week. We're a 4-day working week company. And that works for us because most of us have lives outside of work. And it's a fantastic movement to be a part of. Check it out for sure. Challenge the status quo. I've started talking at events about why a 4-day working week is really important. And again, I think it comes back to that core of, I've never wanted to do a job that doesn't mean something to me. And so being a part of networks and events where I'm talking at them about a 4-day working week, naturally making connections, new people are coming into our sphere. So if you're passionate and you're talking about what you do, you'll naturally bring those types of people your way. And yeah, and like Laura said, the Women in STEM is a really classic example. I would never consider myself to be a woman in STEM at all. I've always worked in STEM, in STEAM as I call it actually, science, technology, engineering, arts, because I think the arts is really important, and maths. But I do, I run workshops in schools with kids around STEM and STEAM, and trying to inspire them into this sector. So yeah, absolutely, of course I can relate to that, but I would never have associated that with my my career at all, because I'm not technically trained in any way. I don't have any qualifications in any of these areas and any of these sectors. It's all just learned along the way and following a passion. And the other thing I've introduced into my world, and again, I've made this happen, I'm trying to make this happen, is co-production. So I've got an education background. I've worked with kids a lot. I love empowering other people. So I'm channeling co-production in what we do at Big Lemon, which is where we're building products with the general public. So I run workshops with the general public and build products with them. So I'm taking those skills of, yes, my confidence, yes, my arts background, but my education skills as well, and my coaching skills, and all of these sorts of forward-facing skills into an actual skill set. Co-producing is a skill set, and I've adapted that into something that suits me, that then I can sell to other people. It's a product that I now sell, something as part of my repertoire. An activity that we've done recently, I'm conscious of time, but I've got a couple of slides left, we did at Big Lemon, and I really would encourage everybody to do, is we created this ecosystem. This is an ecosystem built around us at Big Lemon, but actually this is me as well. A lot of what is on here is my networks and my connections. It's a really lovely way of just stepping back and reflecting on, who do I know, who is in my world, who is connected to who, how do those dots join together? It'd be really surprising, I feel, for most people to kind of see those wider connections that you could form relationships with. So for example, for me, one specific one that I picked up on was I worked with UCL back when I was in London. I then started working with a strand within the UCL, which was the Co-Production Collective, and I was running workshops with them. I then pitched an educational tool idea to a company called WordWeb, which I'm now building, and from that I've got connections within the health sector and another university who also wants to be a part of what we're doing. Other communities, which are the community champions, they're an actual network in themselves. I reached out to them and I said, do you want to be a part of this as well? I've now got Welsh Gov who would like to buy this product, because we started it from nothing, an idea, literally just a concept, a dream, and something is occurring. That's part of that little ecosystem. And I bet there's so many of you out there that if you created and had a little look at this map, you could probably follow those threads of connections and pick up some of those little conversations and a little coffee with somebody, just to ignite something, just to see where it leads. Again, with no expectation necessarily, just to see where it might go. And again, I'll share this all with you guys as well after, but just reading widely for me has been really important. I read child psychology stuff because I want to know what the ins and outs of my kid's head is at, to Dense Discovery, which is a really heavy tech digital publication, and there's so much in between which I read and I find inspirational and follow my own threads of potential themes that could come out of that. And some networks that I'm a part of and engaged in as well are on the screen, but there's so many more, and I'm happy to share some of these afterwards as well. And just show your presence, being active in them and being engaged will really make a difference. And it's not just local, but it is beyond that as well. And yeah, my mantra definitely is treat people the way you want to be treated. I've said that for a really, really long time, and I think it resonates even today. I don't know everything at all. Nobody does. We're all learning this. But actually, if you just try and be that positive energy and put things out there without expectation back, it will definitely come at you. That's what I feel anyway. And that is me. I'm going to stop sharing.
Thank you so much, Sam. I've been sitting here going, wow, like there is so much going on that your life seems, I don't know, it's inspirational to me, but I've got lots of questions. I've been writing lots of notes. If anyone has any questions off the bat.
I was going to ask about you sort of touched on the 4-day working week. What was the transition like for you personally and as an organisation, and how did sort of other people in the organisation deal with it?
Yeah, we trialed it last summer. So we found at Big Lemon anyway, I mean, I've always been flexible, 100%, I've always needed that, but at Big Lemon in particular, last summer, we just found that we weren't able to commit to all of the work that we needed to because we wanted to take holiday. So we kind of just went, all right, well, we're not going to do that, so let's be realistic. And we actually just went down to a 4-day working week. It wasn't sort of a purposeful, we're now a 4-day working week company. It was just like, okay, let's do that, enable us to just have a little bit of breathing room. So we trialed it last summer. and it went really, really well. And then to coincide with that, the 4-day working week campaign suddenly appeared. We were like, oh, actually, this is something that we could probably make official. And we chatted with the team in depth about it and asked their opinions and thoughts. And we did a few like anonymous surveys and stuff like that. And we decided to literally just give it a go from the beginning of this year. So we set expectations, to clients that we wouldn't be able to do things in specific timeframes that we would have done previously. Doesn't mean we can't complete it. We just needed to reset that expectation a little bit. And it's not been without its issues at all. We already had a lot of work planned at the beginning of the year, so it was real pressured for a period of time because we just couldn't deliver as well as we had hoped. But we were able now to set a different expectation, to say to people, no, we are a 4-day working week company, just to sort of put that time frame in mind. But team-wise, we did anonymous surveys, and we still do anonymous surveys every week, just to capture some kind of productivity and the feel good and how the team are at with working a 4-day working week. And we've been reflecting on it and asking them, what is the balance that they now find having gone down to a 4-day working week as well. And 100% people are feeling much more productive. We've had to change a lot operationally, so we have less meetings. Everything is shifted so that meetings at the beginning of the week, work is done in the latter half of the week. More headspace is required. We only do core hours of 10 till 3, so people can work whatever else they need to. So that's really helped as well, because some people are early, some people are late. Depends how it suits them. But we do have a lot of people who still work on a Friday and also pick up overtime, but people have also done freelance work, so people are getting paid to do freelance work as well. So lots of ins and outs. It's
you
really,
all take the same day generally then, so it's
Monday to Thursday is what we usually say, and we all have Fridays off. But that's not a rule. You can set your own rules. I think that's the other thing, like the 4-day working week is really flexible. You don't have to do the same thing. You can kind of set your own rules. We didn't deduct pay, so we kept the same pay and we reduced the hours. And again, I think everybody needs to look at that financially and what the hit that is financially. There are hits, there are things to consider, but for us at the minute, it's working. We wouldn't change it. I think I've been trying to talk with people a bit more about it, because the practicalities of it are quite scary. But I think if you just trial it at least, try and embrace it in that way, I would say. And it works. What we've also found because of that is our people that are now applying for jobs with us is more eclectic and diverse. So we're getting a lot better sort of selection of people who are coming and wanting to work with us, which is really exciting. Yeah, it's really exciting. It breaks down those barriers. It's great.
Well done.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. I attended the Big Lemon did sort of an online chat about the 4-day working week. So I was really intrigued about that, because it sounds amazing, doesn't it? I think for most people to only work 4 days but get paid for what you what you normally do. But I can imagine the challenges for large organizations and small organizations are very different. So obviously Technicamp's based in university, Megan. We can try and work towards 4-day week, but I think it would be a long,
whether it would
slog.
either sort of affect the organization's productivity, and if not, people still get the same amount of work done, then are they more stressed in those 4 days or working longer hours in those 4 days? It's
There's a lot to
and whenever I've taken a half
out,
day from work, I end up doing the same amount of work I would have done in a full day, because it's only half a day, so it probably does
just get it all done.
Definitely a month.
There's a number of things I wrote down. One of the things that I feel quite similar to Sam, in that I do a lot and I've done a lot. I haven't had all the jobs that Sam's had, so I haven't had lots and lots of different jobs, but I feel like the jobs I've had, I've allowed myself to do lots of different things and try and do different things. But for me, I worry that I'm a bit of a jack of all trades and not an expert at something. And I think you've put the emphasis on being kind of like the facilitator of bringing people together and bringing the people together who have the skills, rather than being the person with the skills. And I always see that as a negative for me. But can you kind of explain? I mean, you went freelance without knowing what your specialism was. So how did they tie together? How do you sell yourself to someone in that sense? Is that enough of a question? I wasn't sure how to.
It was honestly passion led. So when I came to Wales and I was talking to all the people, it was more about what I wanted to do and where I wanted to work in, rather than necessarily knowing what skills I could offer. And I had in my head that I knew that I was really good with people. I was really good at facilitating. Operationally, I was really good at doing things. And and I just thought, okay, well, I'm just going to go out there and talk about what I've done previously, where I want to be and who I want to be. And that ignited sort of people to then go, oh, you know what, we could do X, Y, and Z. Would you like to be involved in that? Like Prince's Trust came about completely randomly. I met a lady at a networking event who was working at Prince's Trust, and they wanted to do some business related, future of work related projects. And she literally just said, can you come in and talk to some of the staff at Prince's Trust about what you've done in the past? I went in and told them about some sort of future skills, like events that I'd done in the past in London. And she was like, could you come and replicate that over here in Wales with us in Prince's Trust? And I'd never have even thought that that would be something that somebody wanted to do. And I didn't do that on my own. I didn't run those events in London on my own. There was other people there, but I outsourced and brought other people in to do that with me. I didn't just go solely on my own to go and do it, but I coordinated it and brought it all together, but recognizing what I couldn't do in order to bring that to life. And I think that's it. Like, I don't know, you can't blag yourself that far, can you? You've got to be honest about what you can and can't do. But equally, I think, I don't know, again, I feel as women, as female, we don't actually probably realise what we are capable of doing. We're so negative, and so I don't know, a lot of people can be quite down on what their skill set is. We do, I don't know, I think people have the abilities a lot more than probably what they realise, and just learning it. I think, you know, taking a plunge to say yes to something, not necessarily being able to say yes to all of it, but learning along the way, I think is really, really important. Yeah, just being a bit risky in that sense, I think has really helped me.
Okay, so I think saying no to things as well, rather than saying yes to everything, is a big thing in that. Admitting what you can and can't do.
Yeah,
okay,
definitely.
Right, fab, thank you. I've got some questions coming through, which is fab. So the first one is from Helen.
So it's going to be a bit of a two-parter, I think. The first one was, do you have any Twitter top tips? So I don't have Twitter, I don't have Facebook. I come from an education background as well, and so having students find you and like find your holiday pictures, I was very locked down on the social media. So that's a bit new to me in the terms of kind of a wider network. So any tips there? And then just broader, how would you go about starting out to find networks and kind of those sort of links of things you're interested in, and perhaps the gap between interest and job? Because I've kind of gone from teaching and then come to the university, which is a little bit more separate from what I'm passionate about to what I'm actually doing. And I guess finding that web of things in between. Just some tips there, please.
Yeah, definitely. I think with Twitter, I keep professional. I don't blur my personal onto Twitter, and I think that's really helped. Facebook for me is personal. Like it's, you know, it's my world, it's my life, and actually my Instagram is as well. That is definitely a personal thing for me. I think because I find Twitter and LinkedIn are the two that are professional zones. And then sort of Facebook and Instagram are personal. A lot of people would say Instagram is a powerful tool to develop your business. I definitely feel that, but for me, I've set my personal one up on Instagram, and I don't really want to blur that line too much. On Twitter, I would say definitely start getting the groups, so you can identify people and tag them and put them into groups on Twitter. When you start following people, you can then put them in categories. Do that right from the start if you can, because they can get really lost. Like I follow, I don't know, 2,500 people on Twitter. I can't identify who is doing what, but if you put them into groups straight away, into, you know, education, tech, thought leaders, I don't know, whatever those sort of identifiables are, you'll be able to go straight to those people to find that, because it's just a wash of everything when you go into Twitter. And that's, it's not going to be filtered for you. They're going to filter it for you. They're going to push the ones, aren't they? That's how Twitter works. So I definitely suggest do that straight away. I've got loads if you would like from my educational days. I'm happy to sort of share a bunch of ones in that space if you're up for it. I've got loads. I recently did a little doc for a school. They wanted to get more clued up on Twitter. So I sent them a bunch of sort of people to start following and engaging with, which I think, they found really useful. So I'm happy to forward you some stuff over.
Yeah, that would be brilliant. I think you're right. It's massive, isn't it? And you kind of think, where do I start? And you can kind of get lost in it. So yeah, that's really useful. Thank you.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. It needs time. Yeah, just sitting there and just trailing through all the different threads and following all the different people and who you find interesting. It does take time. It's like a job in itself, isn't it? A little bit. So yeah, just keep it small to begin with. But yeah, I love Twitter for that. I do love to see where the conversations go. It's really, really interesting. Yeah, and then where to start with going to events and networking and stuff. Where are you looking to get to, Helen? Like, what is your thing that you're at the university? Like, I don't know, do you have an idea of who you want to be talking to?
I'm not sure. So my kind of, I guess if I was to say like a passion background, it would sort of be like geography, earth, environment kind of stuff. But at the minute I'm doing kind of operational sort of administration tech-based stuff in the education sector, and I guess the education is kind of the bridge between the two. Yeah. So yeah, I don't know if that place exists, but in my mind that kind of place, I think.
Yeah, definitely. There are loads of digital events out there, digital focused events that always touch within those two branches. So things like there was one only the other week, Impact Summit was one, it was on Wednesday actually. I can share some of these with you. Impact Summit blurs the lines between education, sustainability, sort of forward thinking, and like brings it into one, and all of those people were really lush. So I guess in my head I would go to that event, I would scope out all the people who are attending, follow them on social media, and then I would start trying to have conversations with those people that I thought could produce something, just even if it's just literally some thought leadership, some inspiration, whatever it could be. And then just finding out who do they follow, why, what are they, who are they following and why, and like going like a little thread, like let yourself go on those little threads of investigation. It's really interesting to see what articles pop up, what conversations they may be having on social media. There's so many little juicy threads that come up when you go down those little tangents. Just keep following it. That's what I often do, and I get lost, but you find so much. And just kind of save things. I think save things to create this little ecosystem, this little map for yourself. I've got like a spreadsheet of all the people that I've ever had a conversation with, who they are, their Twitter handle, and maybe a website if they've got it, and what the status of that relationship is. And I've just found that a really easy way to format my world. And that's how that ecosystem map came about for Big Lemon. I was like, I want a version of that for us as a company, and that's what we created, because I don't have the design brain. The guys did that. I was like, here's my list. So that's been really useful.
Thank you. I hope that's helpful, Helen. Do you think your background in the arts has made you stand out with unique skills for someone in the STEM and tech industry compared to someone who's followed a more streamlined science or tech background? So has it been an advantage to have that arts background in the STEM world?
Yeah, because at the end of the day, I think it's a people skills. As far like you can learn skills within tech, within digital science. You can go on courses, you can train, but I think at the core, if you've got people skills and you've got the confidence and you've got qualities that really attract people to you as a person, I think that sells you better in that first instance, because you can connect with people on a different level and have sort of more natural, genuine conversations. And I do think that my arts has definitely played a real key in that, and I probably haven't registered that until I moved to Wales, when I started putting myself out there in a different space and really had to take the plunge in just being something completely different to what I was in London. I didn't value that enough. yeah, even when I reflect on the details of what I studied in university, how it was such a challenging degree, and how I still feel that in me, in my heart, that I want to challenge people, I want to challenge society. I never would have thought about that being something that is, you know, a value now to my attributes. But yeah, 100%. That's why I think I place so much emphasis on you as a person. Look at yourself, and you know, your well-being and your energy as a person is just as important as learning and skilling yourself up. So yeah, be mindful of you.
Yeah, it's all those scientists and technologists who need to learn those communication skills. I'm sure, you know, they come naturally to some people, but maybe not to everyone. So it's something you can work on. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, totally. I mean, that's a big thing for me in science communication, and communicating your ideas to people in a accessible way, whether it's to children or to people who aren't specialists in that subject. So it's a big thing. Okay, I've got another question here about from Megan. How important do you think it is to have a mentor or someone to push you in your career? Do you have a mentor, or you seem to be able to push yourself, but maybe some people don't have that internal drive as much, so it might be something that they want to look at?
Literally, prime example right now, I haven't had a wider network around me probably for the last couple of years, because I've been so focused on trying to get Big Lemon to where I want it to be as a company. And I've kind of siloed myself off a little bit from having some wider conversations with people. And over the last few weeks, I've really struggled mentally. I've really needed to talk to people, and I've not found anybody that I felt that I could really trust to talk to outside of my little bubble. So I've actually gone back to reaching out to a few people in my past that have really helped me. And just people that, I don't know, I've not necessarily been mentored by, but who I've had some genuine conversations with, and I've asked for help because I've registered that I've needed it, and I'm quite overwhelmed at the moment. And so I feel absolutely finding those people out there that you can trust. I wouldn't call them, I don't know, I don't think the role of like being a mentor or anything like that necessarily needs to be given to that. I just think generally as humans, we need people to be able to talk to, and not be in isolation with our thoughts, as it can spiral out of control, and that's quite a dangerous place to be. So
interesting. So not necessarily formal mentors, but people who keep those relationships with people who feel supportive, I guess. So you haven't have you done any mentoring yourself? Have you mentored formally or informally along the way?
I've done quite a few programs. I've done it in schools. I've gone into schools and done it with people, whereby I've helped young people sort of help them figure out what maybe they wanted to step into. But also a lot of my jobs when in London in particular were around supporting growth and teams. So I would help them with their personal development plans, as well as the actual like growth of a business plan and their role within the business. So yeah, I've always had that role with people, but I've always tried to find those people for myself as well. And I don't think you can sort of grow and fully sort of be yourself if you haven't got those extra level of people around. But yeah, definitely never formal mentoring, but definitely it's always been there. Thread.
Interesting question. Yeah, definitely. The mentoring's interesting. I volunteered to do some mentoring with STEM, but then kind of had that imposter syndrome of thinking, what can I actually offer? But it's actually made me realize it can help you, being a mentor, realize what you can offer people and how you can support people. I was sort of looking at an early years career mentee who's gone into lecturing in university but hasn't got that experience, but has got the subject knowledge. So it's sort of it's helped me realize how I can support people as well, and then it's been beneficial both ways. So I think it's a good thing to do if you want to do something constructive to help someone, maybe volunteer to be a mentor, or you can, if you ask someone to be a mentor as well, it can be flattering for them, and hopefully you can develop a good relationship there.
That back in London. So we had
Okay.
we had people who were from a younger age, between 20 and 30, and they were mentoring people who were older as well, who were in need of help of reinventing and adapting themselves because they'd gotten stuck. And that worked really nice. It was a role reversal, and there was a much deeper learning that took place there, which was really, really valuable.
Wow, that's really
always
interesting. Yeah, that younger people can actually help mentor older people, but in areas maybe that they haven't got the experience or the confidence. I love that idea. If you have got any questions for Sam, then please let us know and we can pass them on. So thank you so much for joining us. And hopefully we'll see some of you next month. Well, not next month, 2 months' time. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Guys.
Thanks, guys.